Let's welcome in our next guest. He is a writer for Sports Illustrated on the topic of baseball, of course. You can follow him on twitter.com/J_Jaffe. It is Jay Jaffe. Hey, Jay, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Very well, very well. Thank you. Thanks for joining us this evening. Wanted to talk, Jay, about stats and how they've evolved and how they're affecting decisions in Major League Baseball. Everyone's seen Moneyball. Everyone's read the book that loves baseball, but it goes beyond that. It's obviously it's something that each team does differently. What is it about stats that you love? Because obviously it's a passion to not only write about baseball, but write about some of the things that you do, including, Jaws, which you came up with.
Well, I think to me the neat stuff isn't just about like following who's having the best season or whatever. It's the ability of the advanced statistics like wins above replacement to equalize a lot of the different environments that players and teams face. For example, in Coors Field, where there's a whole lot of scoring versus Safeco Field, where there's very little scoring by comparison, we can use advanced statistics to get a better perspective on who actually the most valuable players are there, and to equate their contributions despite the drastically different environments. Likewise, we can compare somebody in the year 2014 to somebody from say the 70s or the 60s when scoring was lower. Things like that. And for me, as I'm historically minded, being able to do that with regards to Hall of Famers, to look at, to level the playing field, so to speak, when I'm comparing, say, a current candidate, against somebody who played 50 years ago, I think that's a great advantage, and that's what my Jaws system is about.
Are you ever surprised when you actually crunch the number, when you're looking at a couple of guys and going into that, comparison, you thought, well, I have a pretty good idea it's even, or this guy's slightly ahead, and then you crunch the numbers and it's a completely different story?
Oh, yeah. I think whether you're talking about comparisons, within the same season, currently, which is obviously part of my job in analyzing baseball on a daily basis, or looking at historical stuff, I think, that's one of the beauties is you do get surprised, quite often, and I think it helps you, look at things a little bit differently and try to understand, all right, why is this happening? Why are we undervaluing this performance and overvaluing that performance? And I think certainly these kinds of conversations and observations have gone on inside front offices as well, and that's really a lot of where the value comes in terms of using this advanced stat stuff to the teams.
Are some managers, guys that are in the dugout, better at this kind of stuff than others at this point, or is it still sort of a front office situation?
I think it's probably more in the front office. I mean, I think some managers are more comfortable with it than others. They buy into it. I mean, you look at Bob Melvin in Oakland and the synergy that's there with Billy Beane in the front office, and a lot of that pertains to platooning. The advantage that a team gets from having an opposite-handed hitter face a pitcher, things like that, or to trust the minor league stats and the translations that are going to tell you that this prospect can actually play at the major league level. Another one who comes to mind is John Farrell. Obviously, the Red Sox aren't having a very good year this year, but they won last year, and Farrell often talks about being exposed to the advanced stats when he was in the Cleveland organization. So I do think there are some managers who are definitely more comfortable with this than others, and they're not all created equal in that way.
Chatting with Jay Jaffe of Sports Illustrated. I was watching the Red Sox and Angels game yesterday, and they threw out a stat. Since 2010, David Ortiz has been the batter that's been most shifted against defensively. Is that something that you look at as well? Is how teams are using stats for defensive purposes?
Yeah, that's certainly been a prime topic of conversation over the last couple of years. Teams have been able to focus on the distribution of batted balls and to figure out that sometimes it makes a lot of sense to shift, put three infielders on one side of the infield to combat these things, and it cuts down on the batting average on balls in play, especially of lefties like David Ortiz and Mark Teixeira. Teams are using it with increasing frequency, although one of the things we're seeing is that they're not always getting the advantages that they think they're getting. Part of that's due to small sample size, part of that's due to hitters being able to adapt by going the other way. I think we're going to see an equilibrium, where we see less shifting than we're seeing today, but perhaps smarter shifting in the long run.
Jay Jaffe of SI joining us here. Jay, I'm looking at SI.com/MLB and some of the articles that are up right now, one of which is something we were talking about here on the program, I think on Monday night, about which Major League Baseball managers may be on the hot seat, and that's what you've written about in your article from yesterday, I believe it was. Kirk Gibson, no-brainer to me that he is on the hot seat. Is there any chance, do you think, that he comes back next year?
I think Gibson's probably, towards the top of the list of managers, I think, who probably won't be back next year. You look at the way that the Diamondbacks have underachieved. I mean, injuries have been one factor there, but this emphasis on the vigilante justice, the hit-by pitches and stuff like that, kind of at the expense of winning. I'm not sure that Gibson really is somebody who I'd want to go forward with in that club. I think with Tony La Russa, the reason he was brought in was to take a look at, overarching look at the organization, and I think he's probably going to wind up concluding that the team needs to move a different direction, not only with Gibson in the dugout, but with Kevin Towers as general manager.
Now, as soon as Gibson gets fired, are you going to tweet, "I don't believe what I just saw"? That would be fantastic.
No, I probably won't, because I will definitely believe it when that happens. I think, I would have fired Gibson after that that embarrassment of him fist bumping his pitcher after he plunked Ryan Braun, and then watched the next pitcher give up what turned out to be a game-winning grand slam to Jonathan Lucroy. I very much will believe what I saw when he gets the axe.
All right. Another manager I did want to mention is Bud Black with San Diego, of course, a guy that's had some success in Major League Baseball. But, they're not that bad, the Padres, right? They're a few games under 500. They've shown some promise. They shipped out Chase Headley earlier in the year, or a few weeks ago anyway, to New York. I don't know. I don't know if he's a guy that's on that hot seat. Padres don't seem to really pull the trigger that quickly.
No, but the reality is that the Padres played poorly during the first half of the year, when it really looked like they might have actually been a factor in the NL West otherwise. And Black has been there. I think he's had only 2 winning seasons. But the reality is that with a new general manager, when a new general manager comes in, the tendency is to want to bring in a new manager. He wants to bring in his own guy rather than being left with a legacy. And I think if Black isn't necessarily dismissed this year, and he may not be, I think it's likely that he won't get another contract, and that's just one of the realities in the industry.
All right, elsewhere in Major League Baseball, another question that we've been having internally here on the program on our panel is, if the Blue Jays don't make the playoffs, but they finish 3 games over 500 or 5 or something like that, has it been a successful season based on where they were last year, or is it too late for that because the expectations were raised so high earlier in the year?
Well, that's tough to say, and I guess I don't know that there's any one right answer there. I mean, the good news is after so many losing seasons that finishing above 500, I think there's a real positive mental aspect of finishing above 500. I think it helps you attract better caliber free agents, and probably helps in the ticket sales department and things like that. I think there are some real tangible benefits that come with finishing above 500, even if you don't actually make the playoffs. And looking at this, the last time the Blue Jays won more than 81 games was 2010. So we've had an 81-win season and then a couple of 70-something win seasons. So I think there's a big benefit, even if they wind up as also-rans, to getting, above 500 for the year.
It's amazing to me, and maybe even more so to someone like you who crunches the numbers, that a team like that with so many bats that they wouldn't have figured out during the year. I don't know if it's a case of them not being able to make the proper trade or what have you, but that they didn't go out and get more pitching to support the hitting, because at the end of the day, we see it year after year in the postseason, pitching wins championships.
Yeah, though when you look at the slide that's happened to the Blue Jays really over the last, I guess, pretty much August, 5-12 in August. I mean, they've been scoring 3.2 runs a game and allowing 5.4. You can pin that on both sides. It's the offense, which was missing Edwin Encarnacion for a good chunk of time there, and lost a couple other guys to injuries here and there. And the pitching. But yes, I am surprised that they didn't do more with the pitching. I know that bringing up Marcus Stroman was a big deal, and he's really rewarded their confidence. But they've let Drew Hutchison, from after starting off reasonably well, they've let him kind of unravel there in the rotation. And Jay Happ is just a persistent mediocrity. And Mark Burley, who was really carrying the team early in the year, has inevitably regressed. So I'm surprised they didn't do more, but at the same time, I think when you look at the caliber there, they were way over their heads at some points, and this was an inevitability, especially given the injuries.
You can check out Jay Jaffe on Sports Illustrated, si.com/MLB, or follow him on Twitter /J_JAFFE. Thanks so much, Jay. Really appreciate your time.
Sure thing. Thanks a lot.